Hello everyone. It has been quite a while since I've been on YouTube, hasn't it? For those of you who do not know, I am JS. I am a small-time channel, well, was a small-time channel. I tried YouTube in the past, but I lacked a direction, didn't really know what I was doing, and admittedly quickly fizzled out. But for anyone who continued to follow me, you might know that I have transitioned onto other platforms, with my main currently being TikTok, as scummy as that sounds. I've gained a small following for now, which does show a lot of promise of growing in the future, and with all that excitement, my audience has given me the idea of hosting OC reviews. Now, the premise itself is very simple. You guys join the Discord down below. You'll post your OCs in our little OC section. I will then make a full video giving you honest feedback on your OCs, changes I personally would make. And of course, a disclaimer that these are all my opinions and directions that I personally would take. If you do not agree with it, it's completely valid. I am only here to provide you with a different way of looking at things to hopefully give you more inspiration to write in the future. Now, we'll be beginning today with the OC called Zenny. Now, I have covered Zenny before on TikTok, however, I wanted this video to be more long form, which is why I have moved OC reviews to YouTube in the first place. We'll start with physical descriptions. So, Zenny is a robot. Fortunately, I already know that. They have purple hair and eyes, and they have a smooth plastic skin. Now, immediately, I am thinking of the androids from Alien Isolation. They give an almost uncanny valley sort of feel to them, and their plastic faces still give me creeps to this day. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will hopefully put a picture here. Continuing on, their attire is a black jumper, grey trackies, and they are wearing socks and sandals. Fortunately, I already know some of the premises behind it, and I am enjoying the concept. The idea of a dad bot is a very entertaining and creative one. The only thing I personally would change is the roboticness aspect of it. Looking into media, there are a couple of robots that stand out, and the majority of them do get a bit boring. The Terminator, for example, looks awesome when out of its human skin, but when dressed up as Arnold, it definitely blends in with the monotony of human robots that we see in so many medias. More recent examples from the Alien series again, where you have Alien Covenant, where I enjoyed some of the earlier Aliens, didn't enjoy Covenant, but Fassbender's depiction of the robot is far too human, even if his acting does cover it. Since this is supposed to be a dad bot, as we will discuss in a minute, the creepy look also doesn't work out for you, given you most likely didn't want that aspect to begin with. That's me looking into it. You want a character that resembles a father figure rather than a spooky man. And with that in mind, I would go for a more robotic look. Looking into medias, for example, you have characters like C-3PO from Star Wars, where despite the fact that he is a humanoid and a robot, he still gives a very fatherly aspect to him in the way that he talks or the way he represents. And giving those sorts of aspects more reliant on how you write the character rather than the physical description, I think the contrast between the two would heavily increase your writing. But even looking into other medias, you have the robot from the more recent Lost in Space, or even robots like Rosie from the Jetsons. They all have a very unique charm in their design. They are a robot, and there is nothing wrong with that. And I believe it stands out far better than, again, the robot Fassbender. Fassbender? Fassbender. Okay, and moving on to story. Now, the backstory for Zenny. He was a robot created by a tired father in order to look after his daughter. Zenny protected the girl until she passed away. This was all set 300 years ago, and currently he now wanders around unimpeded as the government is unable to do anything about it. Brilliant premise, as I mentioned before. I really enjoy the angle that this is taking with the idea of a dad bot being very unique. However, there are things I would change. The first is related to design. To amplify how tired the original father was, I feel a robotic look would help amplify that angle, as it would show that there were certain aspects he unaccounted for, such as the physical appearance. This as a whole would strengthen your OC, as it may very well give you a new angle to bring up, such as unresolved issues, like an underlying resentment for not being finished in Zenny's own eyes. This, of course, would give you far greater plot lines to invest in, and it would open up avenues for your audience to actually start to see themselves in Zenny, especially if you're going to give them physical appearance issues. A lot of people handle that, and a lot of people would relate to that. The other point I can make with this is the feeling of a lack of direction. If the story was set when the girl was alive, I can see a lot of avenues where the story can progress. But with this being set in the future when everything's already been lost, I don't really see where you're going with the character. This is also backed up with your point of the government is unable to do anything about them because you haven't provided a reason for the government to want to do anything. Perhaps he is technology they do not understand, or perhaps he is a threat in his own mind. Why would the government care about him? These are a few questions to keep in mind as you continue writing this character and progressing the story. The final topic, strengths and feats. And this is one that I feel very strongly about. As I mentioned before, we run a TikTok account wherein mostly we post content related to OC questions and prompts and writing advice. And this is where I've seen the same trope over and over and over again, to the point that I personally don't even read them. It's just I read the first line and I stop reading. And that is the "my OC is a god" trope. I personally find them, quite ironically, very boring characters as they ruin stories that they are put into. To give you an example, I wrote a OC prompt. Your OC awakens in the middle of the ocean. They look around, there is nothing, they see nothing other than the lifeboat they currently are in. What do they do? Now, I do not have anything against OCs with power. It would make it far more interesting, like they could talk to sea creatures, or they could fly up, see if they can find any land. Interesting avenues to go down. But I kept getting people who were like, well, my OC is a god, so they just teleport away. And it just ruins the story. With all that being said, Elite does a very good job at balancing the OC, as you will soon find out. His strength is small building level, and this is why he hasn't been captured. His feats consist of fighting off a gang of 7 men without a scratch, jumping out of a car travelling at 133 miles per hour and landing on his feet, and jumping out a 4th-story building and landing it. With the final one being holding his own against an evil robot, even if he did lose the fight. Now, this is an example of a well-balanced character. It would make sense that a robot would be durable enough to fight off 7 rapscallions, especially if they were no more than delinquents. It is completely believable. The car and building demonstrate the durability of Zenny as a robot. But I would ensure that there was a representation of the upper limits, so you get an idea of what it takes to injure him, and it would give you a far easier ability to create tension in the story. Losing the fight will always create more drama and story in the long run, so having him fighting this evil robot and losing, brilliant. Mwah. Overall, I like the premise of Zenny. The few things I picked on are little gripes in the whole, as I believe this is a very strong OC that I feel could definitely work in the long run, and I look forward to seeing what you do with them in the future. Well now, that's the video. If you would like to have your OC reviewed, join the Discord linked below. Thank you all for watching, if you still are, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.